Steve Miani here with another video. We're not doing the junkyard crawl today because it's snowy and it's February in Massachusetts, 2022. So we're indoors, but that's okay. Today we're going to talk about, well, something that's kind of cool. There's a whole thing on YouTube called unboxing videos where people take packages, they open them up, and it's Christmas morning all the time. We're going to do that with some JoHan models in just a second. But before we do that, remember that JoHan is actually one of the oldest plastic car manufacturers in American history. Of course, Revell and Monogram have been doing airplane models for quite a long time, but AMT came out in 1948. Well, JoHan, 1947. Now, JoHan is short for John Hanley. It's not pronounced Johann Sebastian Bach, but JoHan, John Hanley. And in 1947, he started a thing called the Ideal Model Company, making plastic replicas of kitchen furniture and even transmissions for Chrysler. And they were basically display models. Well, for 1954-55, John Hanley got a contract from Pontiac and General Motors to do the new cars. This is a 1956 Oldsmobile Holiday four-door. It's one of the earliest JoHan models, and on the bottom we have the word JoHan, short again for John Hanley. Now this one, unfortunately, it's a dealer promo. It's not a model kit. This was something that was pre-assembled, and this picture is showing ladies, housewives, sitting at tables in Detroit. In fact, JoHan was located on Moran Avenue in Detroit, Michigan. And there's pictures of ladies with hairnets on at a table doing their part, slowly assembling these promotional models. And these were handed out at car dealerships and sometimes sold at stores. The ones at stores had friction motors in them, like this here, that, Woolworth or Zare, whatever, would have sold JoHan promotional friction toy cars. The only downside is that the earlier ones were made out of something called acetate plastic, and it tends to warp. We can see this thing kind of has a weird banana shape to it, and it's not smooth or flat. This stuff is actually warping. But a weird thing about the early JoHan models is they had metal bumpers, front and rear, not plastic. That's metal. Very, very cool. But by 1961, JoHan rounded a bend and started doing 1/25th scale plastic model car kits. A lot of Chrysler stuff. And what we're going to do today is unbox some of them. Now, these are actually factory sealed. In other words, direct from JoHan's location at 17255 Moran Avenue in Detroit, Michigan. The air inside of this box has been in here since, well, in this case, probably 1973 or so. Now, here's the thing. This model here, the 62 Dodge Dart, was initially made by JoHan, I think, around 1964 or so. Maybe 62. There's some confusion on that. But again, this is 62. It's not a promo. This is a model kit. But they re-released, JoHan, a lot of their stuff from the early 60s in the mid-70s as the USA Oldies series. You see it right there. And so this is a re-release, so probably again from 1974, 75. So let's open this one up and see what we find inside. Now, the crazy thing about JoHan models is, unlike AMT, which again started a year after JoHan in 1948, and by the way, AMT stood for Aluminum Model Toys. And you might wonder, well, aluminum model toys, they're making plastic kits? Well, it's true. That was their initial thing, aluminum toy trucks, cars, airplanes, that kind of stuff. And when AMT got into the plastic model and promo business, they changed their name to SMP, Scale Model Products. But again, that only lasted a few years, and AMT, well, became one of the leading plastic model kit manufacturers of them all. But here's the thing, AMT, Revell, Monogram, MPC were all much larger companies than JoHan. So they could afford, well, to do everything on a better scale. So one thing about JoHan kits is sometimes you buy these things and they're molded in the weirdest colors. Apparently, when it comes down to injection molding plastic, pure virgin white plastic is the most expensive. What you quite often find is these model kits are molded in wacky greens and yellows and pinks because they're recycled plastic. You throw some dye in a recycled plastic and it's cheaper to make than would be a white kit. The downside to pre-colored kits is when you try to paint them, you have to prime them with either flat white or gray to neutralize the color of the plastic underneath your paint you're trying to apply. Otherwise, it'll bleed through and look goofy. Okay, without further ado, let's open this 62 Dodge Dart hardtop kit and see what plastic color it's molded in. Okay, so we begin. Let's cut open the plastic right here. Again, this plastic was applied in 1973, 4, 5, something like that. Let's open it up, and this plastic's probably worth money on eBay. It's like, to me, everything about these kits is precious. And here we go, let's peel it back. The aroma. And before we open it up, we have to always, the air inside. Ah, how nice is that? I'm a goofball. Okay, and we have, ooh, red. Okay, well that's actually okay. The red, you know, it's true to the box art. It's okay. I've seen these in white and in green and in yellow. Now this model is a 62 Dodge. It's a Dodge Dart 440 series. In other words, the Dodge Dart came out in 1962. In fact, our little four-door police car, which is part of our Steve Mignani YouTube series, you'll see that in a little while. It's just too cold right now to work on that thing. It's out in the garage. But that car is a base model Dart. Beyond that was the Dart 330. The Dart 440, and then the Polara 500, which was the top level. This is sort of the mid-range Dart 440. It's a hardtop, not a sedan, no fixed pillar. And, you know, the thing about JoHan models is the bodies were really very nicely proportioned. Everything about them was awesome, quite nice. The downside was the chassis. You can see right here, the underside. It has dual exhaust, an 8 3/4. The leaf springs are there, and the crazy thing is torsion bar detail on these kits. We'll get to that in a second. But the downside again is the fact that this is all molded in one piece, like a pan. You don't have a separate axle. There's no separate 8 3/4, no separate exhaust system. So what I used to do is take an MPC, Dukes of Hazzard Charger or whatever. We're talking in the late 70s, early 80s. I would take the MPC chassis and put it underneath the JoHan body and come up with a more realistic underside. It's one thing you can do. The interiors on the JoHan models are halfway promo, halfway kit. We can see that the seats are molded in. As a result, the interior tub's a little shallow, not quite realistic. And there's the bench seat with the buckets, you know, split bench with the console. You know, it's okay. The engines, I hate to say it, on these early JoHans, very basic. The intake manifold and the heads are molded as one piece. The valve covers are kind of lumpy. The exhaust manifold's that goofy looking log right there. So again, the JoHan kits, the early ones, were a mixture of excellence and mediocrity. The wheels are pretty nice. These are the chrome wheels. These are the Dart 440 type hubcaps. Pretty cool. The alternator is a work of art. Quite a beautiful thing. First seen in 1962 on the B bodies right here. The alternator is looking pretty good. Correct stuff. And the grille is also a beautiful thing. That's really quite nice. So again, the 62 Dodge Dart, molded in red, about what I expected. You know, the instruction sheet on this thing is pretty decent. You know, it has nice illustrations showing the construction process, and in my case, learning what an alternator was, or an oil pan, or a cylinder head, or an axle, came down to model car kits and checking out the descriptions on the instruction sheet. So that was pretty cool. All right, it's moving along. 1964, 2 years later, JoHan kind of moved from strength to strength. This is the 64 Dodge. It's a Polara, and on the box it says recharged. Well, in a future video, we'll get down to what recharged means. Hint, it's a way of saying ram charger without paying the ram chargers a royalty. And again, we're going to shoot a video later on today that gets into that even more. But beyond all that stuff, let's find out what color this 64 Dodge Polara is molded in. Okay, opening with the, and by the way, I paid $74 for this kit on eBay. But you know what? These are worth it. And I'll show you why in a second. There's some stuff in this kit that's stellar. Okay, off with the cellophane. And here we go. Now this model here, probably again mid-70s. This is a re-release. And this is something that, again, could be molded in any number of different colors. So here we go. And like a fine wine, we have to check the aroma. Oh, lovely. Vintage JoHan, or actually vintage Detroit air. Kind of smoggy, actually. Okay, what color? Ooh, another red one. Look at this. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, red. Yeah, today's the color of red. Yeah, not too bad. I've seen these again in green, yellow, yeah, blue, rarely. and red. The white ones are the ones that you want, and probably the most original are the ones molded in white plastic. The reason, again, if you want to paint this blue or green, whatever, you must prime it to get the white paint or the red plastic to keep it from polluting your ultimate shade, because it will definitely bleed through and tint your color. But again, like the 62 Dodge, we see the one-piece chassis with the molded in axle, and it's nice to see dual exhaust on this thing, but but the body again is very, very nice. Now by 1964, JoHan had moved into a better interior. The seats are no longer molded in, and we can see that it's deeper, it's more to scale. That's a good thing. And the chassis, of course, like we said, it's half promo. But the weird thing is, on the back, that little tiny square right there, that's where they would have you put the battery for the Hemi Superstock option. And the thing is, the trunk doesn't even open, but you can put the battery inside. I love the idea, but it's kind of crazy. You can't even see it, but I like the idea that it trained kids to understand that putting the battery in the trunk of any drag car was good for weight distribution, and it was also correct. 64 race Hemi cars, the aluminum nose cars, batteries in the trunk. The rest of the kit is actually very good. By 64, JoHan's Hemis were excellent. Here it is right here. The cylinder heads actually have combustion chambers on them right there. You can see them. They're molded, the details molded right in. So quite nice. And the stage 3 ram charger fender wall headers, these things right here, they're 2-piecers, but these things are really cool. And in fact, there's a book called We Were the Ram Chargers, where Tom Hoover describes at night welding together these mail order headers that the Ram Chargers made. And here's a great example of the Ram Chargers stage 3 headers that they actually made. Now the hood is quite a good piece. There it is right there. And it has 2 holes in the bottom. We cut those out for the cross ram and the air cleaner, or the hood scoop right there. So good stuff. Now something kind of weird here is we don't have the recharge decals. This one here says stripper, but the box says recharge, right? What's up? Well, classic JoHan, just sort of scraping together as we get into the 70s and 80s, as JoHan was kind of falling from weakness to weakness, I hate to say it, from their heights, their strengths in the mid-60s. And of course, by this point in time, the word is that, well, in many cases, John Hanley would maybe leave the building before payroll was available on Fridays. Now, I'm not talking out of court here, but it's something that's documented. So a lot of the employees would actually sell tooling out the back door, and as a result, morale wasn't that good. And this is a great example right here. The wrong stickers, the decals, like, come on. But with that said, the remnants of this kit, the grille is wonderful, and to me, the gold of these models is these steel wheels. I take these rims, I put them in brake fluid, strip off all the chrome, and these are some of the best steel Mopar rims in the business. These are skinnies. You put these on the front of any AFX car or Superstocker, and they're awesome. Decals, the instruction sheets on this are pretty good. Still kind of like the 62 days, very basic stuff. Now this is the 64 Dodge. Okay, now we're going to move on to something altogether different. Now we all know that the Chrysler Turbine car, the Turbine car program, started in 1953. A guy named George Hubner was in charge of that, and JoHan had the honor of replicating a turbine car, and here it is right here. This kit came out, I think, in 1965 or 66. Here's the thing, in early 62, Chrysler built some of the first prototype turbine cars. Well, by 63 and through the end of 65, about 50 of these things were built in Italy by Ghia, real cars. And as we all know, they were tested by the public, and JoHan was in there and they made a replica of that car. Now this is a whole different thing. This kit is amazingly detailed. Let's open it up. This one I paid $114 for on eBay, but what the heck? Let's open it up. Now again, this is a kit that's been re-released a bunch of times, and the most recently, I think about 1980 or so, and I know that a guy named Oki Spalding purchased the remains of JoHan like in 2000, and the word is that he probably was able to put together enough of these things and probably did some re-releases on the turbine car like in 2001 too. I don't know if that's actually the case, but I know that Oki Spalding is still kind of working with the remains, the ashes of JoHan. And with any hope or with any luck, we'll see more JoHan models come up. My fingers are crossed for that. But anyway, here is a re-release of the original JoHan turbine car, but this is an amazing kit. Let's open it up and first inhale that wonderful JoHan air from the day. And this one, okay, yeah, molded in burgundy plastic, which is a typical color for these things. There you have it right there. Now, the original turbine car was actually molded in sort of a darker, a lighter shade, I should say. But I've also seen these things like in green and all kinds of weird colors. But the thing about the turbine car is this. Unlike the other models, this thing is so detailed. Like, check this out. The body has opening doors, an opening trunk, opening hood, and the fenders and the doors are just beautifully rendered. I mean, this is an amazing kit. If JoHan had different teams making kits and tooling them, they had their A-team on the turbine car project. And here's the thing. Here's the heart of the turbine engine. There's the case right there. These are the dual exhaust systems, which were actually heat exchangers because the turbine exhaust was very hot. So all of this stuff really beautifully rendered. There's even a power steering pump and column. Just an amazing kit. This even has tilting seats. The bucket seats actually tilt. And best of all for me, the 8 3/4 rear axle is a thing of beauty. There it is right there. Here's the center section right there. You can almost read the 742 case number on the side of the darn thing. Inside the trunk lid has its own frame. The rear frame section, the fuel tank. It's just a whole different world versus the 62 or 64 Dodges. So again, somehow, some way, JoHan really hit a home run with the turbine car model. And again, these things today are pretty valuable. Again, I paid 112 bucks and I think I got a deal on this thing. Will I build it? Probably not. But with that said, something weird about the JoHan turbine car and the Chrysler turbine car is, unlike Chrysler products at this time, which had torsion bar front suspension, the turbine cars had coil springs. And if you look right here, these tiny coil springs, those are actually real plastic coil springs right there. And again, the turbine cars had front coil springs because the torsion bar area was taken up by the exhaust system of the turbine, this big crazy exhaust pipe. But again, JoHan rendered a couple of coil springs that actually compress. They almost work. And just, this is a mastery of kit tooling in 1965. It's as good as anything that's done today. And the chrome tree, we can see a couple things happening here. A, beautiful work, but also a lot of flash. This webbing, this crap that you see inside of here, these webs, that is what you get when you don't maintain the tooling. That stuff right there, that's flash. The problem with flash is that you have to trim that away. And it's basically, it's an artifact of neglect. You know, it just speaks to the fact that JoHan, by 1971, 2, 3, 4, was really suffering under the weight of a variety of things. The economy, the advent of video games, and also truth in advertising laws as applied to things sold to kids. The Carter administration, President Jimmy Carter, he really cracked down on toys and things sold to children that depicted on the box a picture or an exciting illustration, but when you open it up, you got something altogether different, usually a bummer. So he mandated, the Carter administration, that photographs of the actual kit had to be inside, so, and on the box. So that kind of killed box art and helped to kill JoHan. But again, the instruction sheet on this is really amazing, with beautiful drawings, almost blueprint type stuff, almost photographs. So good stuff. So now that we've defiled 3 JoHan model kits, I guess I'll have to build them, and I probably will. You know, but with that said, it's just so cool to be able to go on to eBay and find almost anything you want. In fact, I have to be very careful because I can spend a lot of money on eBay without trying, so I have to be cautious about it. But anyway, that's the story of JoHan models. And again, a fellow named Okie Spalding in 2000 purchased the remnants of JoHan, and with any luck, he'll be able to bring them back. Now, we know that in 2015 or so, Revell Monogram brought Rommel's Rod back from the dead, so to speak, which is like that weird German half-track custom, that Tom Daniel model. They actually scanned, digitized an existing kit, a surviving kit, unbuilt, and they made tooling from that digital scan. So if that could be done, well, there's hope for the turbine car and other JoHan models. Just saying, Tom Lowe, the guys at Round 2, let's hope maybe somebody will step up and put in the money to bring back the old JoHan model kits. Okay, we'll be done with model cars when the sun comes out again, but right now it's February in Massachusetts, so we're kind of stuck indoors. But with that said, if you like this video, well, subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, and also we'll be back with more junkyard crawls and muscle car crawls with our friends at High Octane Classics. But again, subscribe to the channel if you like what you saw here.